This one stock can change early buyers' lives. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice, but financial advisors might say to buy as much as possible before November 29th. My research suggests that Nebius is about to do very well. They have revenue reported from Q3 up 350% year over year, 140 million of revenue. So they're a small company, but they're in a very fast growing field. They do software, cloud services for GPU clusters, which is in high demand. They had a $3 billion 5-year deal with Meta announced recently. And even as Meta sold off significantly from earnings, that was more based on this 15 billion tax hit. So a lot of companies sold off recently. The market as a whole sold off. Big tech sold off. And now money's come back into big tech speculation names. Banks as well are starting to go up again. Money's getting sucked out of healthcare a little bit to a sort of a safe haven there. And this company, Nebius, looks like it can start to move up at a time when many of the other speculation names, it's unclear if they will move up for months. I'm talking rare earth names, talking about quantum names. We'll see about those, but this company has real revenue. It has a real chance for growth, and I want to jump into the fundamentals and also the chart. There's one other ticker I want to cover the second half of this video. It's ticker symbol WULF. It's Wolf, and they are transitioning from a Bitcoin miner to a data center compute provider. So the transition is supposed to be higher margin, and this company looks like it's bouncing right now. So good opportunity to buy that as well. It's not financial advice, but let's jump in.
This is Sam Putnam. This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.
Okay, so here's Nebius. The company's from Amsterdam, and this is what they do. They do GPU cluster infrastructure, software that works with GPU clusters and with Meta and with NVIDIA and with CoreWeave, and pretty much all these companies are going to have some interface with Nebius. That's my understanding. This is their revenue growth, 150 million, up 300% year over year. They did have a little bit of a net loss, just kind of a lot actually, 100 million. But they're also in the midst of a CapEx build out like all the data center companies are. So this is the big deal, 3 billion over 5 years. Hyperscaler is just the word now we use for these big tech companies. It's a little strange, but it just is what it is. And they did have a deal with Microsoft for 20 billion, which is also pretty insane. So if they can create more clusters and connect with more existing providers of GPU clusters, Meta is going to give them even more money, it sounds like. This is a lot. They're going to achieve 2.5 gigawatts of power and add a full gigawatt just by the end of next year. So I know Sam Altman's talking about 20 gigawatts, but this is a good start. This is a lot of money, $1 billion, spending 2 to 5 billion in total. But if we look at how the money is getting raised, it looks like it's not getting raised through the public, and it's a big enough company, 20 billion, where that makes sense. Dilution is worrisome. If you look at some smaller tickers, you will see dilutive instruments that are worrisome. Just to give an example that I have been giving, this little $5 million company, you have to be careful because there's a high chance that there's going to be shares sold in the market lowering the share price. So Nebius is not in that boat. We'll see what actually happens, but so far it seems like they're a surer bet than companies like CoreWeave that have been really held back, even though CoreWeave had I guess it was a $14 billion deal with Meta. CoreWeave wasn't able to go up. Core Scientific was also not ever acquired by CoreWeave. So all these companies in this ecosystem have news basically on a weekly basis. And so far, Nebius doesn't seem to have any news that's really, really negative. There are a lot of, ChatGPT says there aren't many exactly like them, but there's a lot that are in this same conversation of AI cloud, GPU data center, especially when you consider all the Bitcoin miners that are transitioning into data center plays that I'm going to mention in the second half of this video. But IREN is one example of that, just to get right into it. 10 billion 5-year contract with IREN to use their data centers. That's from Microsoft. And challenge there is, well, we'll see if they can actually provide that power. They own the power, so that's great, but there's still challenges actually making everyone happy who was around, literally residents living around the town, if it raises the price of electricity. So that's still an unanswered question if the companies like Microsoft are just going to have to pay up more for power than individual consumers. CoreWeave is another one that's in the conversation. Had a $6 billion deal with OpenAI, but if we look at the actual price of CoreWeave, it's just been kind of worrisome. So just to zoom out here and look at Nebius, this is what we see, okay? It basically followed the market. We can see the market, the green in the background. And it's notably at a good spot because this gap up back in September coincides with pretty much the price we're at right now. And they recently had earnings, and a week later, the price has not moved so much. And you might say, well, it not moved, that doesn't sound good. But if we look at, other companies that had earnings, Delta Airlines hasn't really gone anywhere. These are, big companies, seemingly unrelated. Some of the best companies, Caterpillar, had earnings and are just barely holding up. And if we look at companies that are directly related, Microsoft sold off significantly. NVIDIA, of course, sold off. This was supposed to be the indicator of a strong market when you have great news and the market goes up, but instead you had great news and the market sold off. So SPY is bouncing the last couple of days, but interestingly, that actually makes it difficult to position because then it's like you can't really buy tomorrow because you just went up 2 green days in a row. So there are companies that, are sort of bouncing or giving the indication that they might bounce, like SMCI or Meta itself. But it's never easy to buy a falling knife. And I think it's easier to buy a company that's sort of gone sideways and presented a level for you. So that's the argument for Nebius. As for similar companies, Wolf, which is actually similar to Cipher, which we just described, Cipher, C-I-F-R. Cipher actually has the deal with Google. I guess we were talking about IREN to get them confused. They all sort of follow the same characteristic, right? But Wolf does have this recent earnings and a higher low here. So there's a little bit of advantage there if you're just looking at it as a technical trader, which it's fine to look down on technical traders. It's like they don't know what's going on. But they actually sometimes can get a better read on what's going on than someone who gets lost in what these companies do because they're getting real-time information from buyers and sellers in the chart, right? So here's a little bit about Wolf. 10-year hosting deal. This Fluidstack is basically Google. Google is backing $2 billion of Fluidstack's lease obligations. So indirectly, Google is basically cutting a deal with Wolf. 200 megawatts is whatever it is, a fifth of a gigawatt. So it's significant, but it's not crazy. It's a multi-year revenue stream, and we'll see what happens. But if you compare it to other companies, and I mentioned CoreWeave, I didn't actually get the chart yet. CoreWeave has never really made a big move. I mean, there was this IPO and euphoria, sell-off, and then this was the $14 billion deal with Meta right around early October, and it just really rolled over. It just never actually went at a time when so many companies were going crazy through September and October. Sure, CoreWeave went up a little in September. I mean, 40% of the lot. But it didn't go up much after that. And if we look at Core Scientific, the company they were supposed to acquire, this was when the vote was on Core Scientific, and they voted not to be acquired and sold off, as well as CoreWeave. So definitely pretty rough. This was the time where there was the rumor that they were to be acquired. that was a sell the news event. But when the actual vote came, they never got acquired. So Wolf definitely holding up better than some of those other companies, especially in the past week or so. Their earnings are whatever they are. They're not good. But a lot of these companies don't have earnings. I mean, Oklo is the poster child of no earnings, and a company that went crazy in September and October, again, at a time when I mentioned CoreWeave did not, and is kind of unbuyable now. So it's great that this speculation name went crazy, but Oklo I actually put in the same bucket if CoreWeave is not really buyable right now. The same bucket as the rare earth names. USAR, MP is holding up, but it's still a rare earth name at a time where China came out and said, we're still going to provide rare earths, we just want to approve them. So that's the reason why some of these Bitcoin miners turned data center plays Wolf are interesting. And Iron, also in the conversation. It's kind of the same chart, actually, as Wolf, similarly, except for the fact that it doesn't have that high or low. So, someone might be buying Wolf instead of Iron. Maybe they got spooked by this earnings. It's down significantly since earnings. You never really know why a stock's doing what it's doing, but if you can put enough pieces together, you can just try to pick the right one. I think Wolf is slightly stronger right now than really any of the other ones. Riot and Mara, these numbers are great. 600 megawatts is a lot. It's 3 times the Wolf facility, but they don't have a contract. So Google is basically contracted with Wolf, and Google's actually doing incredible in the last week. Broke out at a time when a lot of these companies were not doing well. Gemini 3 just got released. I actually tried to use it for this video, but it wasn't able to recognize that I was talking about a certain company. So I just skipped back over to ChatGPT for the time being. But a lot of people are raving about Gemini. And then as for Riot and Mara, it's great that they were Bitcoin miners and now they're becoming AI data center companies. But it's taking longer, or at least they don't seem to have any big deals yet. So edge computing is super valuable. Basically will allow you to do inference, which is like make decisions all over the different parts of the country. I don't know what edge computing is. I mean, who knows what this is? What is edge computing? Literally what it is when you have a phone is it just means, for example, you'd run the LLM on your phone instead of sending your data to the cloud. So it's a more secure version, but I'm not sure if Mara and Riot are exactly up to that or what they're doing. So here's what Wikipedia says, all right? This will help us out here. Yeah, source of the data, physically close to the user, according to an explanation of the data center. Yeah, so it doesn't make any sense as to how they're going to help with that, but safe to say it's not driving their business. We can see that pretty clearly in the stock chart. So this is Mara and Riot, and I wouldn't want to own anything that's directly connected to Bitcoin right now. I mean, this just looks horrible. Riot, same situation. Bitcoin, I mean, if you haven't seen it, pretty yucky. So I do think Wolf is in the right bucket of some strength. It's not like the volume's crazy here, but I mean, the volume wasn't crazy over here when it went up significantly either. So you don't need a ton of volume, you just need a lack of sellers. And it seems like right now there's a lack of sellers. And this big red day, November 20th, just, Thursday, was this day. So the whole market went down. It's not super worrisome that Wolf went down significantly there. So anyway, that's pretty much all the signs that point to Wolf. There's a bunch of different ways to compare all these, but I don't think it's super worth our time. I think the main story is just that pick the companies that are already pivoting and that already have an agreement. And this is the agreement with Google indirectly for Wolf. These other companies, I mean, this acquisition never happened with Core Scientific, so CoreWeave and Cores are not interesting right now. Wolf is. And then the first company I mentioned as well, NBIS, has that agreement with Meta. So if you like these ideas, hit that like button. If you want a free course on how to buy stocks before they go up, hit that subscribe. And if you want to take advantage of that $19 Black Friday sale, head over to stockscommunity.com.
This is Sam Putnam. This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.